because it got cut off. What's up, everybody? My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Born on 1170. And got the Tom McDonald Hog Gang hat on, and I want to talk about what's going on with China, with the shutdown of Facebook that's been going on all day. I'm going to share my opinions. I tend to think outside the box. I am one of those people where, like governments say, never let a good crisis go unwasted. So I'm going to share my opinion about this. Now, whether this is the situation or not, I can't tell for sure. I don't work for the government. Forgive me. I'm kind of haven't had much sleep lately, but I'm doing all right. Okay. So I'm going to tell you some things that the media is not going to tell you. I find it quite coincidental that all of a sudden Facebook just shuts down today. You really got to be focusing on Australia, right? I mean, not Australia, China right now. China is going through massive power shortages, where the Chinese government is doing massive power outages in numerous parts of China. This is not like one or two areas. I mean, you're talking roughly about 40% of the country, give or take a few percentage points, where they will literally just shut off a city, a town, a province's electricity without even notice. There are people that are in elevators that all of a sudden the power goes off, now they're stuck in the elevators. Now, you're going to hear a lot of different reasons for this. Now, I find this quite interesting, all this stuff going on, because I forget the name of the company, but it is the second largest building company in China, is potentially going to go bankrupt, and they've been ripping off people, the people of China's money, because they're not allowed to invest in anything but basically real estate. And it's such a huge bubble there that it's just a matter before it collapses. This is what communism does to countries, so anybody that wants socialism and communism here, go look at what China's like. Don't go by the propaganda you see in the news and Disney and all these places. Go to people that are on YouTube that talk about China and show China, where there's literally Manhattan-sized ghost towns where they just build stuff that people invest in. And yes, Evergrande. Thank you for that, Katie. People will invest in properties. What they'll do is they'll have their family and generations of family invest in a property that doesn't exist yet. So they will basically put all their money ahead of time to Evergrande or any other company. They will take that money, sometimes months or years later, build an apartment complex or a building or even a city that nobody lives in, because it's actually easier. You make more profit from just waiting a couple of months or years for the bubble to keep going up and selling it than to rent it to people. Look up ghost towns in China if you really want to know what's going on there. They're not the power that the media is trying to make them out to be. But they are doing power outages where they don't even notice, they don't even notify the people, and just cities just get blacked out, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, and they're predicting it going through potentially until March of next year. That's going to be thousands upon thousands of lives lost that no one's going to talk about. I mean, Disney, guarantee you're not going to talk about it. The NBA, not going to talk about it. The media, our government, not going to talk about it. Now, the blackouts, they're going to give you a lot of probably disinformation or misinformation. One of the things I want you to look up is Australia, who was trying to do research and trying to find out, with investigate China, because if anything, governments love to do investigations. They never do anything, but they try and placate the people by saying, well, we're going to investigate. But Australia was going to do investigations about the ongoing illness problem, and I won't say what it is because you know what'll happen, but the ongoing current illness problems going around the world and China's responsibility for it. So China didn't like this. So they put a boycott on Australia's importing of coal to China. Problem is, for China, this majorly backfired, because Australia was one of the major suppliers of exported coal into China, and since China decided to boycott them, they're finding problems getting it anywhere else. And the price is skyrocketing. They're talking about going green in another 30, 40 years, but there's no gap in between. So they're just going to shut off people's power. Businesses cannot operate. People have no lighting and heating. Winter is coming. You know, like the whole Game of Thrones, winter is coming. Now, what I find interesting about Facebook being shut down now is just yesterday, there's supposedly a Facebook whistleblower that is going to be going up in front of Congress tomorrow. Now, I was watching a bunch of it on YouTube today. I don't watch mainstream media. If you're somebody that watches mainstream media, you know, you shouldn't, but that's your life. But one of the clips was from CNN, and they were talking about this whistleblower. And that to me was an automatic red flag. When CNN is talking about something, you have to pay attention and read between the lines. So if you watch this woman that supposedly worked for Facebook, and I'm sure she might have, I'm not going to question that, but you see her words when she's talking about how she had a problem with Facebook not stopping, what's the right words to use without getting this demonetized or whatever. So you got to be careful these days. That's the freedom we have. She was upset with Facebook not stopping false information. And they said they were profiting off of algorithms where people would fight. And Facebook knew this and didn't care. And they cared more about the profits, which, gee, what a surprise. But what I pay attention to is, what was she talking about as far as the wrong information? That's where we need to be careful, and that's why I was shocked that, well, not shocked, but curious as to why even people like CNN were now talking about this whistleblower. And it's quite interesting that Facebook has been shut down all day today, because if you see what's going on in China, and you see that that major corporation could be going out of business, and they could be going bankrupt, where hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Chinese people can lose everything because they invested in properties that were not even built, and these properties were made so cheap that within 3 years they're crumbling. I mean, again, look at videos on China. You'll see buildings that you think were 100 years old are less than 5. They would put wood inside the concrete. They would do everything they could to just put up the structure, knowing that people invested in it without seeing it, usually from a different providence, and they would make it just enough to where they knew no one was going to rent them out. They were just going to hold on to the property and then resell it to somebody else months or years later, that everything's starting to crumble, literally and figuratively. And there's these power outages. And you know, it'd be interesting that many people would probably be posting stuff like this on Facebook, and now they can't. So I find the timing quite suspect. That now this whole China thing, you think, well, it's over in China. The world economy can be affected by a bigger nation having problems, because now there's a coal shortage, which is going to make prices go up. So that's going to be interesting. Facebook stock is going down right now. The banking industry and the U.S. market for the stock market can be affected by what's happening over in China. Maybe China is a sneak preview of what could come here if people continue to stay silent, or they just don't have the information. These days, there is no excuse to not have information of at least counter arguments from what you hear by just searching on the internet. If you're not searching, you're just being lazy and you just don't care, thinking, well, if it's happening over there, I don't have to worry. These can cause world events. Just imagine if power got shut off where you live for just 2 days. How many people you think would die? Here in Florida, where it can hit 90 degrees, not including the humidity, Just imagine 2 or 3 days of no electricity. How many people, especially the elderly or the sick or the unhealthy, well, sick and unhealthy, same thing. What I'm saying is, this isn't like the 1800s when people had their own farms and could knit their own sweaters and, could survive off the land. Nowadays, people take for granted things like what I'm holding in my hand right now and what you're probably watching this on. Everything is just a fingertip away. And how easily the world can be devastated by a simple power outage, whether it was man made or it's from nature, from a storm, or somebody drives into a pole and knocks out the power in your area for a couple of days. We had a water main break here a couple of days ago where, without us anybody knowing, it only unfortunately lasted only a day, but there was no water for anybody, at least in this area. I prepared for everything, so it didn't affect us, but you could see how quickly resources would disappear. So I find it quite interesting that the media is not really talking about what's going on with China. You have our government in love with China right now, which we probably know why. We have people like sporting events like the NBA in love and in bed with China, Disney, many other corporations, and yet I guarantee you they're not going to talk about this stuff. You supposedly have a whistleblower that just happens to come out while all this stuff is really starting to heat up over in China to distract you. Now, am I saying it's done on purpose? Maybe not. Who knows? I'm not part of it, so I can't tell. But like I said, one of the things they say in government is never let a crisis, go to waste. So whether they planned it in advance, which I would say is probably more realistic, or it just happened to be coincidentally happening at this time, they're going to take advantage of it. So your average person's going to have no clue what's going over in China, and they won't care because they'll think, well, whatever happens over there stays over there. That's not how this world works anymore. It's a global economy. If the stock market crashes in China, you don't think that's going to affect us over here? Just look at what happened if you have Bitcoin. When the power outages were shutting down some of the Bitcoin mining places in China, all of a sudden you had that massive drop overnight of like 10-15%. People really need to start paying attention to stuff and questioning, because like I said, this woman, that's this whistleblower, is talking about how, among other things, that she was upset that Facebook was not trying to get rid of harmful content. But she did not define what she and her version of harmful content is. Is she talking about the fact that last year, if you said that the illness around that's going on started in China, you would be banned from Facebook? It would be blocked, or the fact checkers would say it's false information, and yet we find that out that's not the case. And they even asked a Facebook spokesperson today, there was some news organization that was asking somebody about what's going on, and they didn't say the information wasn't true. They said it wasn't accurate. There's a big difference between something that's not accurate and something that's not true. So they're playing with words. And how many times have I told people, if you look at my previous videos, and they're still up, about how you have to listen to words? Because I told the story one time about a dream I had. If you haven't seen it, I'll talk about it now. Where I had a dream where I was talking to some entity that claimed to be an angel. Only it was very demonic in its speech. It was very evil in the way it spoke. It was very negative, very angry. In other words, not befitting of what I would think is an angel. And then later on in the dream, I come across an actual angel. Now, this is a dream. I'm not saying this really happened. I came across a real angel. It was a woman in bright lights, bright white. And I said to her, well, I talked to somebody earlier that claimed to be an angel, and yet nothing about them was an angel. And this woman in the dream said, well, did you ask what type of angel? Because that angel you spoke to was a fallen angel. So it did not lie by saying it was an angel, but you did not ask the right questions. It's almost like if you see the movie I, Robot, and they're trying to figure out the death of the inventor of the robots, and they have a hologram version of him after he's been killed, and Will Smith's character's trying to find out what's going on, and if you didn't say the right things, the response was an automatic response saying you did not ask the right questions. So you have to pay attention to not only what's being said, but what's not being said. So something interesting is about to happen, and because Facebook is just shut down all day, a lot of information cannot be passed along. But as you could see here, YouTube is still open, and even though I have 40, 50,000 subscribers, 47 people are watching this right now. They've ghost banded my channel to the point where it was basically almost useless for me to make videos. 18 people hit the like button out of those 48, so thank you to those who care enough to do that. But my point is, you have to pay attention to what's going on. And focus on China, focus on the coal industry, focus on the stock market, and the housing market. That is going to potentially affect the world. And they're trying to distract people by, look over here, look at Facebook down. Don't pay attention to the banking industry and the housing market about to crash, and the coal industry and other materials going to be shot through the roof. Because remember, if China has these blackouts, none of their manufacturing works anymore. None of the businesses can function. You know how many products are, made in China? Well, what happens when all of a sudden they can't make the products anymore? What do you think that's going to do to inventory? And what do you think that's going to do to prices? What do you think that's going to do to investments and stocks? What about the Evergrande with the real estate situation? Because remember, there are a lot of people in this country all of a sudden that are trying to convince you that socialism is a good thing because it brings equality. Well, here's where I'm going to use the thing from before that is accurate but not true, because there is a difference. It will bring unity because everybody will be equally poor, except for the people that work for government or have connections to the politicians. I've always said you cannot fight fire with fire. In other words, you cannot use violence. That's what they want, because then they can create more restrictions. Look what they're doing in this world. Things that I've been trying to warn people about for years. Just imagine if people would have paid attention when I had a voice and people could hear me. You want to beat these people at their game? You stop using your credit cards, you stop using your pocketbook, you start using this brain. Be self-sufficient. I work for myself. Now, I'm definitely not a millionaire at this point. As a matter of fact, I've been under financial strain recently. Thank God for my wife working at home. But I will never get that injection. And I don't have to worry about losing a job and because I refuse to get it, because I don't put myself in that situation. You are never stuck unless you believe you are. And many people have been watching my channel for a long time, and they're still in the same situation they were 5 months ago, 5 years ago. Whose fault is that? But here's the thing. As Yogi Berra once said, it ain't over till it's over. So you could fix it at any moment, or you can continue doing what you're doing and wondering why you're not getting anywhere. I have invested the majority of my money into future investments to protect myself from what I've seen coming since 2010. And like I've said since 2010, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Because if you blew a hot air balloon, you know that if you continued to blow into such a huge balloon, that eventually it would pop. But you don't know when it's going to happen. Why? Because a balloon has a lot of elasticity. It can stretch. It can handle a lot more than you think. But there comes a breaking point. And like having car insurance, you may never use it, but you're not going to get it the day you have an accident. Fire insurance, you may never use it, but you're not getting it the day your house is on fire. Do not wait And I always say, do not base it on fear. Because if you base things on fear, they got you. The idea is know what's going on before it happens. And when you see things, investigate it further. If you choose not to do that, the only person you hurt is yourself. And think differently. There's something major going on with China, and I'm sure Facebook is coordinating with them, in my opinion. And again, that's just my opinion, because it's just coincidental that they shut it down. Even CNN is talking about this whistleblower who is going before Congress tomorrow. So more distraction, because what does Congress do these days? They have meetings, they have investigations, they talk to people, they put up a good show, but they do nothing. You had people like Hillary Clinton the other day dressed in what looked to be a queen's robe with a little child holding up the back. I mean, could that be any more pompous? Could that be any more arrogant? How long have people been saying lock her up? And she's walking around like that, like, in defiance. Look at me. I can even have a little kid holding up my cape. People got to pay attention. If you want to continue to live the life the way you are and you're unhappy, there's nobody else to blame. You can blame everybody all you want. All it's going to do is make you feel good, but it's not going to get you out of the situation to make your life good. So that's all choice. If you want to continue to support places like CNN, if you want to continue to use banks, I've been telling people for how many years, get out of banks, go into federal credit unions. How many people actually did that? So the only person you're hurting is yourself. Because like I've always said, you can be surrounded by a storm and not get damaged. You ever hear of somebody that lived in, like, for example, Tornado Alley, and it devastated an entire neighborhood, but there'll be one or two houses that just the hurricane or the tornado didn't touch? You could be that person, unless you believe you can't. And how many times in my life doing these videos have I said, write the word believe and look at the word lie straight in the middle. Because whether you believe something or don't believe something, you don't know. And that's how they get you from both sides of the coin. So look at what Facebook is doing right now. Look at what the mainstream media is hiding. Look at what China's doing. Look at Australia and the coal industry. And look what's going to happen to a lot of production in China. A lot of things get exported to China. We have reserves here. But like any reserve, it goes away. So places like Walmart, for example, you're not going to see anything like a problem even if China went completely bankrupt tomorrow. Walmart, for example, has plenty of products already here. But if you cannot keep refilling those products, they eventually go away. So it's almost like, seeing a star up in the sky. What you're seeing is a past reflection of it. It's what you're seeing is already gone because it takes time to travel. So there is going to be that effect of something not happening right away. But the stock market can do it. Just imagine if electricity got shut off where you live. Our first world problems here is, I couldn't go on Facebook all day. That's a first world problem. You think China's a first world with them having blackouts that can last for days with no advance notice? The government isn't saying, okay, this particular town, we're going to do the blackout. It's going to last for a day or two. We're going to tell you it's going to happen tomorrow at 5 p.m. so you can prepare. No, they just shut it off. And people are in elevators stuck. If you think any government anywhere cares about its people, you are insanely naive at this point. Whether they are communist, socialist, a dictator, a queen, a president. I don't know how many times I could be right before people pay attention to somebody like me. And that's why I know why YouTube has blocked 99% of my viewers from ever seeing my videos. Because I must be doing something right. Because if I was some crazy conspiracy theorist, like people were telling me for years, because a lot of the things I talked about was crazy. As a matter of fact, one of the things I talked about that I actually looks like it could be right, that people killed me for, I probably just got the situation wrong, is talking about how they were setting up Obama for a third term. Well, quite interesting, recently, there was a clip that came up of Obama doing some CNN or some other interview with some of those fake newscasters talking about, oh, if I could get a person to speak for me and I could be at home and talk through an earpiece, you know, he'd love a third term. And then when Nancy Pelosi, who should be in prison, in my opinion, accidentally said that it was Obama's presidency, and then during the government baseball game where everybody was, well, most people were booing the president, one of the announcers, when they showed Biden, they said, oh, there's President Obama. If you look on my channel from about 4 or 5 years ago, I have the video still up talking about how they were setting it up for Obama to have a third term. I just got the situation wrong because as far as how they did it, because I'm not part of the government. And I got killed for that, but yet I still kept it up because I still believed in what I believed in, based on what I knew, research that I did. Go look it up, you can see it. And Florence said they've seen it. So I remember when I first started doing these videos, and I can understand that a lot of the stuff I talked about was crazy and conspiracy theory. Just imagine if 3 years ago I made a video saying that if you did not have a card that showed that you had a needle in your arm, you would not be allowed to go to work anymore. People would have thought I was crazy. And I'd gone off the deep end, and I'm a tinfoil hat, high C drinking, fruit punch person. And yet, look what reality is. Doesn't affect me. If it affects you, what are you doing to fix it? So, look at China, look at Facebook, look at the economy, look at the housing market, and prepare for it while you can. Again, don't base it on fear, because then you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and you will attract the very thing that you're emanating. So if you emanate fear, what a surprise you keep getting things to scare you. Notice I'm not saying this in any panic, irrational way. As a matter of fact, if you look at my videos, I think I've been pretty darn consistent over the years. I didn't flip-flop. Many people do, because many people that make videos, they do it based on ad revenue and how much money they can get. So not only will they not talk about certain things, but they'll talk about things in a maybe a lighter tone. I'm not about that. I'll tell it as I see it, and you could take it for whatever you want. And if you choose to not do your research, if you choose to continue to be depressed and upset and worried and confused and scared, and you're doing nothing to fix it, it's nobody's fault but your own. The problem is nobody tells you that anymore, and this whole world tries to tell you that you're a victim. Well, what a surprise you're being victimized if you believe you're a victim. I am no victim. I'm not living the life of luxury now, but I'm preparing for the day when that is going to be the situation. And I'm willing to wait for what it takes. Life is what you make it. If it's not going the way you want, what are you doing to change it? So, this is about a half-hour video. 55 people out of my 46,000 subscribers are watching this. 44 likes, which is astounding for this channel. I do have a Patreon if you want to go check it out. I haven't promoted that in years. I think I may have one Patreon person. I don't have anything special on my Patreon because I'm not a YouTuber that says, well, if you want to watch the whole thing or you want to get all the information, you have to pay me. I do that in case somebody wants to support my channel. There is no added content, there's no added features, there's no secret information there. I give it out to you freely because that's the right thing to do. What you do with it is on you. So thank you so much. And again, a little shout out to Tom McDonald. You know, he may not be the most lyrically, the most vocally gifted person, but his lyrics are getting out there. And he's actually talking about stuff that I've been preaching for a long time. He still has a way to go down that rabbit hole. But shout out to him, and that's why for the first time in probably 30 years, I actually bought his CDs. I haven't bought a CD in, like I said, in probably about 30 years, but I wanted to support him. But again, on my channel, I'm not selling any t-shirts. There is no specific, secret or hidden or extra content somewhere that you have to pay money for. But if anybody ever wanted to join my Patreon, the link is in the description. Any donations help, but it's not required. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you thought about this in the comment section. I will read every comment. I just don't reply to them anymore because I get so much spam. It's just ridiculous. And YouTube, Facebook, the media, the government, both Republican and Democrat, the education system, all of these people, shame on you. Shame on you that you would take profit over people. Shame on all the people that think money is the priority and allowing this chaos to ensue around the world. But like I said, be the one house that's still standing when the tornado comes in. Do not ever believe or let somebody else believe that just because a storm is coming, that means you're going to be affected, even if it devastates every house around you. You don't understand how powerful you are. And you are so powerful that you've shut off your power. So think about that. You are so powerful that you've convinced yourself to shut off your power to prove that you have no power, but you need power to do that. The problem is, the world is going to make you think that's some crazy thing. Well, look at all the crazy things in the world. Maybe everything that's so crazy right now is going on to let you realize, because you need real eyes to realize, that not everything is as crazy as you think it is. Many of the things that seemed crazy years ago are become reality now. And that's why I tell people about your emotion. Emotion, energy in motion, comes from the heart. Why do you think they're trying to scare you all the time? They can't make you get scared. You choose to be. Stop it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hitting the like button. Hit the share button. And even if you have never seen one of my Oregon pyramids, go check the description of this video and go check out my store. It's a good way to support me if you wanted to do that. I don't get many sales. I get maybe one every 2 months, but every one helps me continue to not be a part of this system. Thanks for watching, everybody. It's going to be interesting times, but like what happened in the Great Depression, there were more millionaires that came out of the Great Depression than any other time in U.S. history. So you could be on the side where the people that were incredibly wealthy were jumping out of buildings because they lost everything because they didn't want to pay attention or think that bubble was not going to burst. Or you could be on the other side that could become very well off because you paid attention. Choice is yours. I suggest taking the one that helps you, not hurts you. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Peace out, everybody.